Alright, we're here in in the Malibu. We're at flight level 250, currently 208 nautical miles outside of Topeka, Kansas. And we're going to start our descent down here in just over 15 minutes. And this is going to be a video demonstrating how to fly an instrument approach by the numbers. So I'm going to walk you guys through an approach. In this case, we're going to try for the RNAV 36 at Topeka, which will be a standard T approach. That's at Topeka Billard. And yeah, it's an LPV approach, and again, it's standard T, so we're going to try starting it from the left base side, which is at Tukja. And I want to arrive at Tukja. Generally, we use 4. Since we're going cross-country like this, we're going to be descending in really fast, you know, 165, 170 knots. So in this case, I'm going to plan to get down to my altitude, which in this case is 3,600 feet, 5 miles before the initial approach fix. And at that point, but in those 5 miles leading up to the initial approach fix, is when I'll be slowing down to my 120 knots and putting in my 10 degrees of flaps and slowing to our initial approach numbers. So that's what we're doing.
Sorry, good day.
All right, we've begun our descent into Topeka. We're currently descending out of 21,300 feet.
Center 127.85.
And we've listened to the weather. I'm going to go ahead and start briefing the approach here. So the first thing I want to do is make sure I have the correct approach plate. This is the RNAV GPS runway 36 at Philip Billard Municipal, Tango Oscar Papa. So it's the correct plate and it's the most current plate. It has a WASP channel, so don't worry, I'm going to put it on the screen. It has a WASP channel, so I'm going to have the CDI in GPS mode, which it will be in. Approach course is 357 degrees. Which will twist in automatically in the G1000. We have 4,331 feet of runway. Our touchdown's 881. It is an RNP approach, but it's not authorization required, which means we are authorized to shoot the approach. And let me just read the notes real quick to see if any apply to us. Helicopter visibility. And yeah, we don't need to do a temperature correction, so notes don't apply. The T in the notes section means either non-standard takeoff minimums or departure procedures are published for the airport. So those are things to review beforehand, obviously.
Kansas City Center, good afternoon.
Our missed approach is going, or published missed approach is to climb to 3,600 direct Gukek and hold. If I had to do that, I would make a teardrop entry into the Gukek holding pattern because that would require me to make the least amount of turns, and that's a 4 nautical mile GPS hold. Frequencies, we have already gotten the ASOS. That's good. Center will be next, which is going to be 123.8. We still have one more center frequency to go through before we go to tower. So it'll be 123.8, and then tower is going to be 18.7, and ground I have active on number 2, which is 121.9. And then taking a look here at the plan view, we are going to begin the approach at the initial approach fix, Tukja. So we're going to make Tukja at 3,600 feet. And again, when I arrive at Tukja, I want to be at my 120 knots with 10 degrees of flaps, which should be about 22 inches of manifold pressure for my power setting. And then we'll maintain 3,600 feet until we get to Wasmo, which is our intermediate fix, and then make a left turn inbound. And at that point, I'm just going to stay at 3,600 feet because it's an LPV approach, so the glide path, I can just intercept the glide path because we don't need to go down to Veckel for like a non-precision or anything. So we'll just stay at 3,600 feet, intercept the glide path, and then follow it down. 2,600 feet on glide path is our final approach fix, which should be right at Veckel.
Frequency and trimeter a few miles.
And then we're going to take the airplane down to the LPV decision altitude of 1254, and we should see 1.25 miles of flight visibility when we break out. That's for category B, like we're shooting the approach. And then I just want to make sure I know what I'm looking for when I break out.
In
this case, there's going to be VASIs on the right side of the runway, a taxiway on the left, and this runway does have medium intensity runway lights, which we're not really concerned about during the day. So that's basically approach briefing. So we've done the approach briefing. The avionics have been set. We've loaded the approach. I just have to activate it. We have the ASOS and the altimeters are set. Standby set. We're still waiting to come out at 18,000 feet, so I haven't set the primary altimeters yet. But we can do that as soon as we get out of flight level 180. All right, we've descended now out of flight level 180, and we've been given pilot's discretion down to 5,000. And so I'm ready for the descent checklist, please.
Passing to your left for 4 miles.
Checklist, seat belts, shoulder harnesses secure.
I'm good, you're good.
Power set.
Power set, I'm looking for 25 inches in the descent here.
And what speed does that give you about it?
About 165 knots indicated, which is just comfortable descent.
Just below the red line, or the yellow arc?
The yellow arc, yeah, which begins at 168.
Okay. So power set, mixture set where we want?
Yep, just gonna leave it.
Pressurization.
Pressurization, so let's set the pressurization 1,000 above the field. So that is set, pressurization is set.
All right, avionics is as desired.
Begun its descent. Avionics have been set. I'm expecting 23.8 for my next frequency.
And exterior lighting as required.
We're going to leave it until we get out of 10,000 feet, and then I'll turn on the pulse lights.
All right, descent checklist complete.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the ASOS, the altimeters are set, the approach briefing is complete, and the avionics are set. For now, eventually we'll activate the approach when we are cleared to our initial approach fix. And then the airplane will go into the approach configuration, which again, 120 knots with 10 degrees of flaps, roughly 22 inches. So we're gonna make sure we have the airplane in the approach configuration before we get to Tukja. And I'll have the lights on and everything. Those are the 5 A's.
118.9er.
Okay.
118.9er, 823 Julius Sierra.
We have been cleared for the approach, and he told me to maintain 3,600 until established on the approach, which we're currently still descending down to 3,600 feet. And again, I'm arriving, it looks like I'm right on track to arrive at 3,605 miles before Tukja. So that's going to give me time to slow down, because right now I'm doing 165 knots, and once we level off, I have to slow it down all the way to 120 knots and add 10 degrees of flaps. And I will be hand flying this approach. I'm going to disengage the autopilot before Tukja, but I'm also going to keep the flight director on, because that way I'm just one button push away from help, and the airplane takes over. So, this thing's simple, but also it's a good exercise to fly the airplane by hand. All right. Altitude select is engaged. (3,600 feet), and we are leveled off now at 3,600 power, set at 22 inches, and now the airplane is slowing down. So now in these 5 miles, I'm slowing down to 120 knots, and anytime I'm below 165, I can add 10 degrees of flaps. I like to get it a little slower though, just so I don't have a really big balloon when I add the flaps. So we'll get it below like 150. All right, 22 inches is set, like I said. And below 165, 10 degrees of flaps selected, and 10 degrees of flaps are indicated. 22 inches, 10 degrees of flaps, the airplane will continue to slow itself down now to 120 knots. And you know, if I didn't have as much time, I could underpower it below 22 inches if I want to help speed up the process of slowing the airplane down. But we have plenty of time here, so I am going to leave it. Alright. Taking the left turn from Tukja over to Wasmo. And I am going to go ahead and hand fly it as soon as I get it set up here. And you guys will see how easy it is to hand fly by the numbers, because everything's just set up for me. So I'm going to go ahead and disengage the autopilot. I'm going to go and kill the yaw dampener too. And you see I have the airplane trimmed out. And our numbers are working out really, really well. So there's no configuration change I have to make now until the final approach fix when I put the gear down. that will be the last thing I do. Actually, it's not at the final approach fix. It's at glide path intercept.
Runway 3, do you want to switch or do you want that?
So the airplane is
Understood.
in the approach configuration now. So that's the last of the 5As. More set up. Approach mode is armed on the autopilot, but again, I'm just hand flying it. But I still do have my flight director up to provide me with guidance.
Numbers seem to make it very easy for you. I mean, very relaxed.
Yeah.
You're ahead of the airplane instead of the airplane being ahead of you.
Right, and I'm not hunting to, chasing power settings to find a certain airspeed. I know exactly what power setting to go to get the airspeed that I want, and I know the airplane will get there. Makes it very simple. I have it trimmed out real well. I'm not fighting it. You see, there's not a lot going on. I did everything ahead of time. I briefed the approach ahead of time. I programmed everything ahead of time. That's called staying ahead of the airplane. And now, when we're actually in the approach, you see, it's not that hectic. And in just less than a minute here, we're going to start our turn inbound from Wasmo to Veckel, which is where the final approach fix will be, which is going to be on glide path at 2,600 feet. All right, so 5, get my turn anticipation here. All right, commence the turn.
Skyline 3766, Kansas City, climb maintain flight level 230.
And we'll also see our glide path come alive once we get inbound here.
Once you get a beam WASO, there it goes. You should get your glide path.
Yep.
Or magenta line.
So glide path is alive, and I'm seeing LPV, so we're set up for the avionics are going to sequence us in now on the approach, so everything's looking good.
Number 872 Alpha Foxtrot, radar service terminated, contact Billard Tower 118.7.
118.7, 2 Alpha Foxtrot, good day.
Okay.
Alright, we're set up inbound. Billard Tower, Malibu 872 Alpha Foxtrot is about 4 miles outside of Veckel, inbound RNAV 36.
Malibu 872 Alpha Foxtrot, Billard Tower, report a 2 mile final, runway 36, altimeter 2986.
2986, report 2 mile final, runway 36, 872 Alpha Foxtrot. Alright, glide path, intercept, gear down, pump on. Not touching the power, just pitching the nose down, and it's going to stay at 120 knots. Alright, gears down 3 green, before landing checklist, please.
Okay, before landing checklist. Wing flaps as required.
They're set at 10 degrees for now.
Okay, landing gear down.
Gears down 3 green.
3 greens. Emergency fuel pump on.
It is on.
Landing light on.
I'm gonna leave it off until I'm cleared to land.
Okay. Fuel selector set.
Fuel selector's on the fullest tank.
Armrest stowed.
Armrests are stowed.
Mixture set.
Mixture set.
Okay. Propeller full forward.
Prop is full forward.
AC off. Air conditioner
Air conditioning is off.
Cabin's depressurized.
It's continuing to come down here. We're very close to being depressurized.
All right. Toe brakes check.
Toe brakes are good. I got pressure.
Lift your feet and center the rudder.
All right, feet off the rudder pedals, and it is centered.
And how did you know it was centered?
I felt the loose spot in the wheel there.
All right.
Which means it's in the slipstream.
Hit the red button to kill the yaw dampener.
Yep.
And confirm yaw dampener is
yaw
off.
Yaw dampener is off.
And landing checklist complete.
Thank you.
Now you're not going to add any flaps now till when?
Until
any additional flaps?
It would be until I break out on the approach, so all the way down to minimums.
Okay. And you're going to do that today, even though we're above minimums?
Yep, just to demonstrate it.
All right, so you'll break out at 200 feet. Is this a 200-foot approach?
This is a 373, so we have a little more time.
All right.
But even on a 200-foot approach, if you just go power to idle, drop full flaps, you'll cross the threshold at 85.
Okay. You might do that today. Just since we are VFR, just don't add the flaps or cut the power until you get to 200 feet. If you want to demonstrate that.
We can.
And so what altitude would 200 feet be?
1081.
All right. So we'll break out about 1080, and the sequence is you pull the power first.
That's going to be power all the way to idle, reach over, grab full flaps. Power's first. That's
Okay.
the main thing.
All right. And then you just take it into a normal approach.
Yep. All right. Again, gears down, 3 green. Airspeed, you can see it right at 120. A little bit of chop down here. And we're going to report a 2-mile final here.
And Tower 2 Alpha Foxtrot's 2-mile final, runway 36.
Runway 2 Alpha Foxtrot, runway 36, wind 02014, clear to land.
36, clear to land, 2 Alpha Foxtrot.
All right, clear to land, and I know that because my landing light is on.
And I confirm 3 greens.
Gear is down, 3 green. Again, rudder trim is centered, and the yaw dampener is off. All right, so we're going to be right on top of it, ready to go.
500.
And again, this has been a very relaxed approach, right on down to minimums.
Minimums. Minimums.
Ending. And again, we're going to hold our 120 to demonstrate a 200-foot breakout, which will be at 1080. All right, there we are. Power all the way to idle.
100 feet.
Power to idle, full flaps.
Airspeed's at 110 and dropping.
And full flaps again, selected, indicating gears down, 3 green.
Airspeed's coming up on 90. Across the threshold, nice at 85. Very good.
We'll cross them from the right.
Plenty of time.
Power's all the way to idle. And I want to make sure with that crosswind that my feet are centered before the nose wheel touches. All right, center my feet, and there we are.
Runway 2 Alpha Foxtrot, left turn Charlie after parking, you can stay with me.
All right, left turn Charlie and Alpha to parking, stay with you, 2 Alpha Foxtrot.
All right, very good approach.
And Biller Tower, TBF 930 Roma Alpha.
That's how we do it.
Holding short.